Hey everyone, welcome back for some more Eldritch Moon Limited Review. For the last 5 days, we've been talking about the best commons and uncommons in each color, and now we've reached our final color, which is green. That does not mean Limited Review for Eldritch Moon is over on my channel. Tomorrow, the archetypal review will go up, and following that, a couple more videos about the format. But for now, let's get started talking about the best uncommons in green. Green is pretty deep at uncommon. There are 3 cards that I think are pretty good uncommons. 2 of them I'll talk in depth about here, and the third one I'll mention briefly. But I think Clear Shot is the best of these. I think it's also in contention for one of the best uncommons in the set. This card can do a lot of work and can give you a super efficient 2-for-1. If your opponent thinks they're trading their 3-3 for your 3-3, you can respond to Clear Shot to make your guy 4-4 and kill one of their other creatures and kill their blocker in combat. This is the ideal scenario, of course. Most of the time, Clear Shot will just be a really good removal spell, a 3-mana spell that kills a creature. But trust me, that situation will come up. Always pay attention if your opponent is showing you that they have 3 mana for Clear Shot, because this card is going to cause some bad beats if you aren't ready for it. On the flip side, though, Clear Shot also does have a very large downside that basically all good green removal spells have, because this is just the way green removal has to work. It has to be creature-based, otherwise it wouldn't feel right. And that is that you can get 2-for-1. If you cast Clear Shot, try to pump your guy and kill a guy, your opponent can cast a removal spell and 2-for-1 you. So you have to, especially if you're playing green, for other cards we're going to see, you have to be aware of your opponent, what tricks your opponent's capable of with the mana they have up. If they have a way of interacting, it's usually not the best idea to try to cast something like Clear Shot, just in case. I mean, sometimes you're going to have to do it, of course, but other times, most of the time, in fact, you should avoid casting it if your opponent can interact. And the simple answer to this is to just not cast it if your opponent has at least 1 card in hand and mana untapped. But once you get to know the format as well as possible, you can sort of look at what mana they have up and see whether or not they could interact with your Clear Shot. But Clear Shot's just a very good removal spell, very strong. It's going to give you some 2-for-1s. It does have a very high ceiling, but also has a very low floor if you're not careful. And you do need to be careful on both sides of this card, so keep it in mind at all times when you are playing this format. Now, I mentioned I wanted to talk about one other green uncommon in some depth that I think is very good. And by the way, I would first pick Clear Shot, but I would also first pick this green uncommon, and that is Somberwald Stag. This is pretty crazy because green actually has 2 high-quality removal spells at uncommon. Green's usually, its biggest weakness is that it doesn't have that good of removal. Sometimes it doesn't get any good removal. For example, most recently in Battle for Zendikar, where it had nothing, basically, other than the very bad Unnatural Aggression. But Somberwald Stag gives green another uncommon. That's a pretty good removal spell. And this is one I want to mention specifically because I think people are going to underrate it, mostly seeing it as a clunky 5-mana removal spell that can kill 4 toughness creatures. And it can do that, absolutely, when you need it to. It can do that, and that's not necessarily a terrible thing. It would be a terrible thing if that's all it could do, but it's actually more flexible than that. Often the best thing to do with this so you can get card advantage, the thing that usually leads to you winning a game in Magic is often card advantage, is kill an opponent's 2 power or less creature, which then enables you to trade the stag for another creature, giving you a 2-for-1. It doesn't seem like a pie-in-the-sky scenario at all. It's going to go down that way with regularity. I mean, just think about board states on turn 5. Your opponent's probably got a 3-3 or 4-4 out, but they've probably also got, a 2-4 or something out like that as well, and you can just use your stag to kill that creature and then still hold on to a decent-sized creature, 4-3. But this is a card that you definitely want to be playing, ideally, in the way to kill 2 toughness creatures. But the fact that it's flexible, it can kill a lot of things, is relevant. It also doesn't have the downside that Clear Shot has, that I just mentioned, in that it itself fights. So you don't have to worry about getting 2-for-1 the way most fight cards do. You can get 1-for-1, certainly. Your opponent can use a trick to save their creature and kill yours. Your opponent can kill your stag in response, etc. So, I mean, there are things that can happen. But it's not going to 2-for-1 you. It's just going to 1-for-1 you, which isn't the worst deal. Although if your opponent spends 2 or 3 mana to deal with it, they obviously get a tempo swing, but it's still not the end of the world. And I would definitely first pick Somberwald Stag too. I don't think it's as strong as Clear Shot, but I think it's a first pickable card. And I think that's a good thing for green, that there's 2 fairly high power uncommons. So let's go ahead and move on to the best commons in green. Now, I was pretty high on green's uncommons, obviously, but I don't think their commons are quite as deep as their uncommons, but they still have good ones. At number 3, I have a card that might shock some of you to see it appear in this video, if you've watched a lot of my videos, and that's because it's an aura. It is Wolfkin Bond. Normally, if you know this already, if you watch my videos a lot, but if you don't, I'm not a huge fan of auras unlimited, and that is because if things go even a little wrong, like your opponent having removal, you easily get 2 for 1. However, I always like auras that have ways of offsetting this. I liked Knightly Valor in Magic Origins, and I liked Griff's Boon in Shadows over Innistrad. Knightly Valor makes a Knight token in addition to pumping one of your creatures, and Griff's Boon can just keep coming back from your graveyard. Wolfkin Bond is a lot more like the former, and while it is a little bit worse than Knightly Valor, it doesn't grant vigilance the way Knightly Valor does, and neither does the token have vigilance. It follows the same basic principle of effectively reducing the risk that you get, the risk you have of getting completely blown out. Whenever a creature you put it on, any creature you put it on is what I'm trying to say, becomes more of a threat, and you also get a 2/2 wolf to help you go wide to give you another body. Now you can still get 2 for 1 if your opponent has removal in response, so don't play Wolfkin Bond unless you're sure your opponent can't interact. Something I've said a lot in this video, green has that problem, so learn all the tricks, learn all the instant speed spells. But even if they use removal on their turn, it is really more like a 1 for 1.5, because at least you get to hold on to the wolf. So this aura doesn't hurt you as much as most do, the same way Knightly Valor didn't. I'm not saying I would take Wolfkin Bond early at all, but I think your average green deck is going to feel pretty good about having a copy. At number 2, I have Backwoods Survivalists. Like Wolfkin Bond, this card isn't insanely powerful. In general, I'd say green has a ton of playable commons, but only one that you should really be taking early, which I'll mention in a moment. That said, these survivalists can do some work. A 4-mana 4/3 is about what you expect, and green is perhaps the easiest color to get Delirium in. If this guy becomes a 5/4 with Trample, obviously he's much more of a problem, sort of similar to Kessig Dyer's Swine and Triple Shadows over Innistrad, only this takes a much smaller mana investment, so you have sort of less of a risk if your opponent hits it with removal or a bounce spell. It also doesn't hurt that it has the human creature type, meaning it carries equipment like True Faith, Censor Well, and benefits from other various human synergies in the format. It's also not a bad target for Wolfkin Bond, so there's some synergy in our top 3 here. At number 1, I have the premium green removal spell in the format, at common anyway, and that is Prey Upon. Yes, that means green has 3 good removal spells at common and uncommon. That's a lot. That's as many as black has, I think. So that's saying something. Maybe as many as red has too. Maybe more. And Prey Upon does not pump the guy you were fighting with. Also, it's an actual fight effect. So unlike Aim High, which doesn't care, but doesn't, not Aim High, that's a different card, Clear Shot, which doesn't actually cause fighting, it just causes your creature to do damage. Prey Upon does make your creatures fight. So your creature, for this card to be ideal, you want your creature to survive in combat. So you don't get 2 for 1 yourself already. Sometimes you have to do that to kill their best creature, and it's kind of nice that this has the ability to do that when you need it to. Most of the time, though, you want to be able to use it in a way that kills your opponent's creature and you hold on to your creature. It does have the same problem, once again, that many cards in this list has, in that if your opponent can interact at the time you're doing it, you might be in trouble. Prey Upon has a little less risk than the others because it only costs 1 green mana instead of 3 or 5, like Wolfkin Bond and Clear Shot. So, it's getting 2 for 1 is still bad, of course, but at least your mana investment doesn't hurt quite as bad. But green has a lot of large creatures. It has a lot of creatures that can fight effectively other creatures. I mean, what you're looking to do with 1 mana and a removal spell, typically, that's considered to be high quality and limited if we think about cards, like in the recent past, like Fiery Impulse or Dead Weight, is kill a 2 or 3 toughness creature, and Prey Upon's going to do that most of the time, and you're not going to lose anything. You're just going to do a 1 for 1, lose your Prey Upon, and that's it. And I think Prey Upon, is what it will be most of the time. Sometimes you'll be able to kill some massive thing, of course, but most of the time you'll kill some smaller creature for 1 mana, though. That's a good investment, again, compared to things like Dead Weight and things like that, and this is a very high-quality removal spell. All right, so that does it for my picks for best commons and uncommons in green. What do you think of the list? Are there any cards I left out or overrated? Let me know in the comments. Also, if you found this video helpful, don't forget to click the like button, and if you aren't already a subscriber, make sure to click the subscribe button below so you can easily find the rest of my limited review for Eldritch Moon. Thanks for watching.